So, when I say the word Greenland, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably just ice, right? A huge, white, frozen landscape. And look, you're not wrong, but that's only part of the story. This massive island is so much more. It's a place with a really deep history, some pretty complex politics, and believe it or not, it's becoming a major player in the 21st century. So let's dive in and get the real story of Greenland.
Okay, so first things first, we've got to talk about the name. Because, let's be honest, it's a huge paradox. Over 80% of the entire island is buried under a permanent ice sheet. So why on earth is it called Greenland? Was it some kind of mistake? Maybe just wishful thinking? Well, the real answer is actually a lot more strategic.
And there it is. It was basically a brilliant piece of 10th century marketing. You see, the Viking explorer Eric the Red had been exiled from Iceland, and he needed to get settlers to come join him in this new place he'd found. He probably figured, well, Iceland is already taken, and that doesn't sound too appealing anyway. So he gave it this amazing, aspirational name, hoping people would follow. And you know what? For a couple hundred years, it actually worked.
That whole bit of historical branding actually leads us right into Greenland's modern identity, which honestly can be just as confusing as its name. Is it its own country? Is it a colony? An island? What exactly is Greenland today?
So, here's the deal. Officially, Greenland is an autonomous territory that's part of the Kingdom of Denmark. The easiest way to think about it is like a nation within a nation. The local government, based in the capital, Nuuk, handles all the day-to-day domestic stuff. You know, schools, healthcare, things like that. But when it comes to the big picture items, we're talking foreign policy, the military, and the money, Copenhagen still calls the shots.
Now, this unique status didn't just happen overnight. It was a really long journey. For centuries, Greenland was straight up a Danish colony. Then in 1953, its status changed, and it became basically a county of Denmark. But the push for self-determination just kept getting stronger. That led to Home Rule in 1979, and then the big one, the Self-Government Act of 2009. That act handed over huge amounts of power to Greenland, and crucially recognized its people as a distinct group under international law.
But way before any of these modern political moves, Greenland was the stage for this incredible human drama. It's a story of survival, of adaptation, and in the end, of succession. Two very different cultures came face to face on this icy landscape, the Norse Vikings and the ancestors of the modern Inuit people.
This timeline really puts everything into perspective. I mean, people have been living in Greenland for about 4,500 years. The Norse, the Vikings led by Eric the Red, they were actually pretty late to the party, showing up around 986 AD. And just before they completely vanished, about 450 years later, another group arrived, the Thule people, who migrated from the west, from areas we now know as Alaska and Canada. And they are the direct ancestors of today's Greenlandic Inuit.
So, the million-dollar question is, why did one group thrive while the other one just disappeared? Well, it all boiled down to one word: adaptation. The Norse Vikings tried to force their European farming lifestyle onto a land that was getting colder and colder during a climate shift we call the Little Ice Age. It just didn't work. The Thule people, on the other hand, had already mastered Arctic survival. Their technology was perfectly suited for it. We're talking dog sleds, advanced harpoons for hunting seals and whales. They weren't just getting by, they were absolutely thriving.
And you can see that history playing out directly in the population of Greenland today. Almost 90% of the people there are Greenlandic Inuit, the descendants of those incredibly resilient Thule people. It's their culture, their language, and their story of survival that really defines the island.
Okay, let's hit the fast-forward button to right now, because all of a sudden, this remote, sparsely populated island has become the center of intense global interest. There's a new great game playing out in the Arctic, and Greenland is square in the middle of the board.
So why all the fuss all of a sudden? It really boils down to three huge things. First, just look at a map. Its strategic location is absolutely critical. It's this giant stepping stone between North America and Eurasia. Second, as all that ice melts, it's revealing what could be immense mineral wealth. We're talking iron, uranium, and especially those rare earth elements that all of our tech depends on. And third, that same melting ice is opening up new shipping routes through the Arctic that could literally slash travel time between continents.
Now, that phrase, the Great Game, it originally described the huge rivalry back in the 19th century between the British and Russian empires for control of Central Asia. Today, people are using that same term to describe the strategic competition for resources, for influence, and for control in the Arctic. It's a high-stakes contest, and it's being driven by climate change and, of course, economic ambition.
And you better believe the major world powers are all making their moves. The United States has seen Greenland as vital for its military for decades and, yeah, has even publicly talked about buying it. China, which calls itself a near-Arctic state, is desperate for those minerals and shipping lanes. And of course, Russia is aggressively expanding its military and economic footprint all across the Arctic region.
And if you want to know just how serious and how tense this has all become, get this. Denmark's own intelligence service recently listed its longtime ally, the United States, as a security threat right alongside Russia and China. And it was specifically because of American ambitions related to Greenland. That is an absolutely astonishing development, and it just shows how much the ground is shifting in the Arctic.
So, with all these superpowers circling and all this external pressure building, what does the future actually hold for the people of Greenland themselves? This brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of the story, their own dreams for the future.
For many, many Greenlanders, the ultimate goal is full independence from Denmark. They don't see that 2009 South Government Act as the end of the road. They see it as the final stepping stone, the launch pad for becoming a completely sovereign nation. But there is one enormous hurdle standing in the way.
And this is it. It comes down to money. A huge chunk of Greenland's public budget, about a third of the whole thing, comes directly from an annual payment from Denmark. We're talking more than 4 billion Danish kroner. Right now, the local economy, which is mostly based on fishing, just isn't big enough to replace that money. At least, not yet.
So this is the core dilemma facing Greenland. It's this massive tug of war. On one side, you have this powerful dream of sovereignty, of being in control of your own destiny and all those vast natural resources. But on the other side, you have the cold, hard economic reality of being dependent on those Danish subsidies. Figuring out how to close that gap, that's the nation's greatest challenge.
Which leaves us with this one last, really powerful question. The very same climate change that's threatening traditional lifestyles is also the thing that's unlocking the potential wealth that could pay for independence. It's this profound mind-bending paradox. Can you successfully build a new nation on a foundation that is literally melting away? That is the story that is still being written.